The adventure begins in the midst of an intense battle, where a group of heroes faces a dragon of immense strength. Little by little, the creature gains ground and ends up hitting one of Dennis's companions. Without hesitation, he heals her with his abilities, but the looks from some of the others reveal less than noble feelings. The envy and irritation are impossible to disguise. In a decisive moment, one of the group members lands a direct hit on the dragon's eye, creating an opening for victory to be achieved. This blonde-haired warrior takes the opportunity to remind everyone of who they are. Members of the Silverwang Battalion, the most powerful group in the world. According to him, losing is not an option. A few days later, this same man named Vigor, the team leader and a level 99 adventurer, summons all the members for a serious meeting. He points to Dennis as the one solely responsible for the failure of the last mission. According to him, if Dennis hadn't resorted to his ability known as the Dread Voice, the dragon would not have escaped. For Vigor, that power caused the disaster. Dennis tries to explain himself, saying he only used the ability because he was instructed to by Vigor himself. But the blonde denies any responsibility and reinforces the accusation. Dennis had supposedly acted on his own, perhaps even with the intention of sabotaging the group. He goes so far as to insinuate that Dennis might be a spy sent by another group of adventurers. And with that, the sentence is delivered. Dennis is out of the Silverwang Battalion, expelled permanently, stunned. The young man tries to understand how this happened. Some colleagues seem to disagree with the decision, but no one opposes it directly. Dennis accepts the expulsion with dignity. If they don't want him there, he won't insist. But Vigor isn't finished yet. He says that a cook like Dennis should never have been part of a team of that level. This statement irritates him deeply. Dennis questions if there is something wrong with being a cook. Vigor replies that yes, there is. The Silverwang Battalion is a group formed by warriors, mages, and swordsmen who are combat specialists. For him, even though Dennis is as experienced as he is, it was a mistake to have accepted him. The tension rises, but Dennis remains firm. If that was the group's thinking, then there was nothing more to be done. With that settled, he decides to leave the capital. Along the way, he accidentally bumps into a little girl, and her balloon gets away. Dennis struggles to get it back, jumping twice to reach it, and succeeds. He then advises the girl to never let go of something important. For him, this sentence carries a greater weight. Dennis also has something essential in his life and understands that he can no longer give it up. From a distance, Vigor observes the scene, looking satisfied, as if he were starting something he had been planning for a while. Just as Dennis is about to leave, a young red-haired girl named Katie catches up with him, wanting to understand why he was expelled. She is visibly worried and points out that if Dennis leaves, no one else will know how to prepare potions, work with alchemy, or cook like him. The quality of life in the group would drop drastically. As soon as they enter a shop, she asks why he decided to buy something. Dennis tries to reassure her, saying that other people have mastered these skills, but Katie insists. Since Dennis arrived, the group's performance in dungeons has improved immensely, and today they are considered the best in the world. She knows the group doesn't understand how much he has protected them until now. Without him, things simply won't be the same. She begs him to come back, or everything could fall apart. Dennis, however, is not moved. He says the past is behind them and there is no going back. Katie still tries to argue, asking him to at least stay to prepare dinner for tonight and a few future meals. For Dennis, this only shows how the group's view of him has never changed. It was as if his contributions were limited to the kitchen. Katie, still shaken, asks what he will do now. Dennis replies that he plans to open a restaurant, but she insists that he stay as vice captain. She even tries to give an order. Even so, he has already made his decision. Dennis knows that Vigor is interested in her, and maintaining contact now would be a mistake. The truth is that his phase as an adventurer has come to an end, but his new life as a cook is just beginning. Some time later, far from there, Dennis finds a magical object in a shop capable of preserving food without using ice, which, in our terms, would be a common freezer. He gets excited, already imagining how useful it could be in his restaurant. But suddenly he remembers a book he read about culinary ventures. The author warned about the risks of initial investment. Thinking better of it, Dennis decides to leave the object aside and use ice magic instead. He feels he has made the right decision and from then on, decides to faithfully follow the advice of the book, How to Open a Restaurant, a manual for ex-adventurers, a very specific title that catches his attention. The first step, according to the book, is to find a cheap, abandoned property to renovate. Next, it's time to contact suppliers and acquire the necessary utensils. For Dennis, all of this is exciting. Each step brings him closer to his new dream. But the manual's next challenge is more complicated. No one can manage a restaurant alone. You need helpers to deal with the customers. And then, in the middle of the street, he hears a man offering someone as if they were a product. A young girl who, according to him, belonged to a noble family that was exiled. The situation is infuriating. Dennis realizes that because she comes from a noble lineage, she has attracted the interest of all sorts of dangerous people. He feels the urge to do something but knows he can't get involved in every injustice he sees. Living like that wouldn't be possible unless he looked into her eyes, and something in that look brings back an old memory, something he has felt before. The auction begins and the bids rise quickly. Someone even offers 800,000 pis, the local currency. Without thinking, Dennis finds himself offering 1 million. But the same seller from the previous shop offers 1.5 million. Dennis understands from the man's look that he can't leave the girl in his hands, so he offers 2 million. The other offers 3. The bidding continues, and Dennis realizes he is about to spend almost all his savings. In the end, he succeeds. Now he has a new companion. He takes her to get cleaned up, doing his best to help her. The difference in her appearance is noticeable, but the emptiness in the young girl's eyes remains. Later, as they walk together, Dennis asks her to follow him closely, or she might get lost. It doesn't take long for her to actually fall behind. A carriage almost runs her over. She bumps into several people and suddenly comes face to face with someone who awakens dark memories. She freezes, lost in her own thoughts. Fortunately, Dennis finds her. He apologizes for walking so fast and now promises to walk beside her. Dennis, who was still a little shy, replied sincerely that it was just because he remembered something from the past. There was nothing else. He wants to know her name, or at least what he should call her for now. Her answer surprises him. She says he can call her slave if he wants. However, Dennis cannot accept that at all. So, she suggests he call her Atelier. With that, he introduces himself as Dennis. She asks what he expects her to do, and he thinks that for now, nothing. He says she can use the second floor as she wishes, and if she decides to leave, she can do that too. The choice is hers. Yes, she is completely free now. That left her speechless. But it's clear that besides being surprised, she is also very hungry. Dennis realizes it's the perfect opportunity to show off a little of what he knows. So he decides to prepare something with eggs. The most curious thing is seeing how he mixes magic into the food preparation. And this really speeds up the process. You can tell Dennis knows his stuff because even during the preparation, the smell is already so good that Atelier feels like she's in paradise. She probably even dozed off a bit. But after a while, he announces that the meal is ready and she can eat as much as she wants. As soon as she takes the first bite, the effect is immediate. The flavor surprises her so much that she starts eating hastily, amazed. And who wouldn't understand that? A well-made plate of fried rice can be irresistible. What no one expected was to see her burst into tears. Dennis, not understanding what's behind those tears, chooses to respect her silence. If she doesn't want to tell him, he won't force her. Even though he believes she went through something terrible, and even thinks that maybe all is lost for her. Dennis believes that a good meal can still make a difference. And seeing that she is enjoying every bite, even while crying, makes him happy. At one point, he asks how she is. She chokes, surprised that he used her name. It catches her off guard. Later, he compliments her on how she set the table, saying she did a great job. He also adds that he bought that item to make her more beautiful. As time passes, we see how Atelier becomes part of Dennis's daily life. She helps in the kitchen, takes care of the shop, does the shopping. In short, she participates in everything. Until all the preparations are finished, Dennis gets so excited that he gives Aetlier a light fist bump. And she, though a little shy because of his clumsiness, returns the gesture. You can see that the two have evolved a lot since the beginning. The next morning, Dennis's restaurant will officially open. The Adventurer's Restaurant. A great name, no doubt. Dennis tells the girl that she will be the face of the business and will have to be very dedicated. She accepts the challenge without hesitation. Everything is ready. Menus organized, water served, tables clean, ingredients separated. Now all that's left is the next step, receiving the first customer. Dennis is so confident that he believes this first customer will love the seasoning and will end up eating there 3 times a day. And of course, he hopes for that. After all, he needs to recover his investments and is taking the business very seriously. And then it doesn't take long. The first customer appears, a gentleman with a striking appearance who will surely be remembered as the very first, a worthy debut. And so we come to the end of the first episode. Upon seeing someone in full armor, the protagonist, Dennis, remembers that page 68 of his manual mentions that some customers will not want to be bothered. One must respect their boundaries and facilitate their stay in the restaurant. That was why he welcomed the knight and called Aetlier to give him some water. The knight sits down and starts reading the menu. Upon seeing the protagonist, the knight gives off an aura of expectation for their first order. Dennis is ready to prepare anything. The knight asks for a small portion of rice, a crystal enboshi, and nothing more. The protagonist thinks this is very little food for a knight, so he asks him if he usually eats so little. The guy replies that they do not. Dennis then asks him if he has little money, and the customer doesn't know how to respond. Dennis asks him if he likes katsudon, and when he answers yes, Dennis decides to prepare one for him. The knight, or rather, the female knight, says she doesn't have the money to pay for it. Indeed, she has a girl's voice, but Dennis clarifies that he won't let his first customer eat 2 tiny dishes. In fact, she doesn't have to pay, as the katsudon will be free. However, Dennis has just realized from her voice that she is a girl. After a while, we learn that she is blonde and is here because she was kicked out of her party for literally being a girl. She finds it very cruel that they did that to her because they considered her weak, a nuisance, and that's why they didn't want her anymore. She is outraged because, for her, gender has nothing to do with skill. Dennis agrees, as it all depends on the individual. The girl mentions that although her level isn't very high, it is at least level 23. Dennis tells her that with that level, she can be considered qualified, and that it is recognized. She says she has heard of the strongest party and that the vice captain of the Silverwang Battalion was a female swordmaster. It seems she is a fan of the vice captain, since in every combat, she always attacks first and inflicts critical damage, something that she really likes. Dennis says yes, he has heard of her and knows very well that she is the real deal. The blonde girl explains that because of this, she hides her gender and is looking for a party to join. But there aren't many parties she can join without having to speak. Worst of all, while dealing with this, she is running out of money. Dennis asks her not to be sad and to enjoy the excellent meal he has just made for her instead. She asks if he really intends to give it to her for free, as she has no money to pay. Dennis tells her it's no problem, that she can pay him when she has money and to eat it before it gets cold. The girl takes the first bite and is completely enchanted by the flavor and texture. She can't stop eating despite feeling embarrassed for not being able to pay, but she admits it's the best food she's ever had in her life. Once she finishes, she gives thanks for how incredible it was, and Dennis tells her he hopes she will keep coming. She would love to, but now that she remembers, she has no money and should first focus on finding a party to do missions and thus earn money. Dennis asks if she wants him to talk to his customers to see if they have a party looking for a female swordmaster, to which she happily agrees, as it would be a huge help. Dennis clarifies that looking for her would be a total nuisance, so he tells her she can come eat here until she finds a party. Poor girl, she couldn't be happier. Later on, more customers have come to the restaurant and have been delighted with the rice sold here. They are not only delighted with the food, but also with the place, the atmosphere, and even the adorable girl who serves them, as she is very kind. In fact, they congratulate the protagonist, and Dennis appreciates the gesture and, in turn, congratulates Aetlier because they consider her adorable. But it's clear she's focused on her own thing. He thinks she's like a cat, but values the great progress she has made. This group of customers says that from now on, they will come to eat before going to the dungeons as a sign of good luck, to which Dennis asks if they are adventurers. They reply that they are, so the protagonist asks if they are looking for a female swordmaster, as he knows one who is looking for a party and has suitable qualities, besides being quite pretty. The guys don't mind, as they are in need of strength in their party, so they end up accepting. During sunset, Henrietta, yes, that is the blonde's name, is surprised that Dennis found her a party so quickly. Obviously, she agrees to join and also promises Dennis that she will pay him back everything she owes. However, Dennis seems thoughtful and mentions that although it's strange for him to say it because he was the one who found those guys, he suggests she be more careful when choosing a party. She tells him it's okay, that if you worry about little things, you'll never be able to progress, so you have to be decisive. Dennis said yes, it was just an opinion. Anyway, here's what she came for, and it's a dish that looks amazing. Obviously, Henrietta greatly enjoys her food and swears on her life that she will earn a lot of money to be able to pay for all of this. Although Dennis is a little annoyed that she talks with her mouth full. Nonetheless, he is happy because it seems the blonde will be a loyal customer for life, as she is already thinking about what to order tomorrow. This is how we see that Dennis' newly opened restaurant is already prospering very well, as there is no shortage of clientele and they always leave very satisfied with the food and service. While the dishes are being washed, these two seem to be the last customers and are delighted with what they are eating. Dennis asks Aetlier to put away the entrance curtains, as they will be closing soon. These two are talking, and the blonde girl comments that there is a group of adventurers around here who usually accept girls into their party and then assault them in the middle of a dungeon. The worst part is that no one has been able to catch them. In addition, they usually take their victims very deep into the dungeons so they can't escape and then leave them there to fend for themselves. Apparently, they move around from one city to another, so you have to be very careful. Dennis has just overheard the whole conversation and wonders if those guys are those delinquents. Obviously, this worry won't leave him alone. The next day, Henrietta has met up with her new party, and each of them begins to introduce themselves. But since they are criminals, I won't bother to say their names. This guy claims to be the leader in theory, but in reality, they have no hierarchy, so he asks the blonde not to complicate her life with such matters. After a while, we see them going to a dungeon, and she asks them what kind of mission they will do today. They tell her it's a simple collection quest specifically, and then they will return to the guild. Henrietta asks what they will collect, but they don't want to give details, to which she thinks it would be best not to insist so as not to be a pest. Once they enter the dungeon, she defeats all the enemies, so the others congratulate her on how strong she is. But just look at those smiles, what fakes these bastards are. Poor Henrietta believes them, as it's the first time they have relied on her so much that she can't help but feel valued. That's why she promises to give her all so as not to disappoint them. For now, they will continue to go deeper into the dungeon, and on the way, they encounter several moderately powerful enemies, but they are no match for Henrietta. However, she ends up getting tired, as she hasn't stopped fighting since they entered the place. The guys can't believe she got tired so quickly, but obviously, there are lies in their words. Anyway, they clarify that their destination is not very far. When they arrive, they mention that this glowing blue ore was called memory ore, and that is exactly what they must collect. As the blonde can't go on, one of them pretends he is going to cast a healing spell on her, but it is actually one to immobilize her, and in a not-so-friendly way. In addition, they have separated her from her weapon and tell her that she is a fool, that they only praised her to make her conceited and arrogant. The leader says that this group loves female swordmasters because they are foolish enough and not as intelligent as sages or mages, which is why they are their favorite prey. They are very clear and warn her that they will have fun with her for a couple of hours, and then they will leave her paralyzed again to gamble with her life. Henrietta now understands Dennis' words. She should have been more careful. If she had been more alert from the beginning, she would have noticed that something was not right with these subjects. She starts screaming for help, but obviously, in such a remote place, no one could hear her, much less help her. For obvious reasons, I can't show this, but believe me, they don't just rob their victims. Keep that in mind. Suddenly, they hear a noise. If it's another party, things would get too complicated. The leader sends one of his own to investigate a bit, but it's too late. A very strong blow has just hit him. It's this monster with axes and a cover on its face. But come on, it's obvious who it is. The thugs have no idea who he is, so one of them uses a search ability to find out what weakness he has. But this doesn't work at all due to the protagonist's high level. The leader can't believe it. The level difference is so exaggerated that it makes no sense for a monster to be at this depth of the dungeon. Dennis begins to give them what they deserve, and Henrietta, although with little energy, feels as if the person who has come to help her is a handy chef. The next day, she is at the restaurant telling Dennis everything. She also comments that when she woke up, she was lying down in the Adventurers Guild's waiting room. That makes her feel a little bad because she couldn't thank the mysterious muscular man with knives who saved her. Dennis thinks all of this has been fatal, but she continues to narrate that the thugs who attacked her were found tied up and unconscious. When the guild investigated them, they saw that they were a criminal party wanted by the law. Henrietta feels strange, as if she had lived a very bad dream. In any case, she agrees with Dennis and has now learned that she must choose parties very carefully. Dennis also feels guilty, as he should have investigated them first. She insists that no, it was her own fault, but her stomach just growled, so Dennis wants to know what she wants to eat. Henrietta says nothing because she still has no money, but Dennis reminds her that she can order whatever she wants and pay him back someday. She then humbly chooses the special Hagen steak set menu. Obviously, this was the most expensive meal, so she immediately regrets it. But Dennis knows he must keep his word, so he will prepare it for her instantly. He also asks Aetlier to stop working, as she will now have dinner with Henrietta. These two have also just arrived, and as they already seem to be comfortable with everyone here. They even serve themselves some water because Aetlier has already finished her work for today. While Dennis was still cooking, they ask him why he didn't open yesterday. Well, it's not right for him to close the restaurant so suddenly for 2 days in a row. Dennis mentions that he just had to attend to some matters, but Henrietta keeps thinking about it and now realizes that the guy who saved her was none other than Dennis. And that concludes everything from episode 1 to episode 2 of Welcome to the Outcast's restaurant. Thank you so much for staying on this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest content. See you in the next video.